Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're off to Portugal,
Ooh, fun.
to a region you all specifically asked to learn more about.
Excellent choice.
Colares,
Uh-huh.
you ready to dig in because things are about to get sandy?
I'm ready.
Get this, we're talking vineyards planted in sand.
Wow.
Sand so unique, it helped these vines survive a plague that almost wiped out European winemaking.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. So we're not talking like just regular beach sand here, right?
Not at all.
This terroir, the sandy terroir in Colares goes way back
Yeah.
to the Jurassic period.
Wow.
It's unlike anything else you'll find in other wine regions.
I can imagine. And these aren't like, your happy-go-lucky vines, right? These
Right.
things are practically wrestling to survive in this sand.
Exactly. This soil is incredibly well drained
Uh-huh.
and poor in nutrients.
Yeah.
So the vines really have to struggle.
Yeah.
They have to send their roots deep, deep down
Wow.
in search of anything they can get. And this constant struggle leads to smaller grapes,
Okay.
but with much more concentrated flavors and tannins.
Interesting. So it's like a workout for the vines,
Yeah,
It's building those flavor muscles.
exactly. You could say that.
And speaking of struggles, Colares even managed to escape the phylloxera epidemic
Right.
that ravaged Europe in the 19th century, which is
It is.
almost unbelievable.
It is remarkable. The
Mm.
tiny little louse
Uh-huh.
decimated vineyards across the continent.
Yeah.
But it couldn't survive in Colares' loose, sandy soil.
Huh.
So because of that, many of the vines here are ungrafted,
Wow.
which is incredibly rare, and it adds another layer of complexity to the wines.
So we've got these like toughest nails vines, right?
Yes.
Thriving in Jurassic sand.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, they've got the Atlantic climate to contend with,
Oh, yes.
which I hear is pretty intense.
It's wild.
Yeah.
You've got constant strong winds,
Oh, wow.
rolling fog, and salty sea spray just battering these vineyards.
Jeez.
And to protect them,
Yeah.
winemakers build these tall bamboo fences called palisadas,
Oh, wow.
and they create this striking, almost otherworldly landscape.
I'm trying to picture that vineyards in the sand, these bamboo fences, and then the Atlantic just crashing nearby.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty amazing. Okay, so let's meet the grapes
Yes.
that can actually handle these crazy conditions.
Absolutely.
All right, so I came across this red grape called Ramisco,
Oh, yes, Remiss.
and apparently it's like the star of Colares reds.
It really is a hero grape.
Uh-huh.
It's notoriously difficult to grow, ripens late in the season, and has very low yields.
Wow.
But Colares is all about overcoming those obstacles.
This might sound strange, but I read that Ramisco wines are actually quite pale in color.
Yes.
Does that mean they're light and simple?
No, not at all.
Okay.
You might be surprised.
Okay.
They have this light ruby hue, but they're known for their powerful tannins,
Oh.
high acidity, and incredible complexity.
Huh.
They unfold so beautifully over time. These are wines built for aging.
So they're like those quiet, unassuming types that are actually hiding a ton of depth and character.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yes.
All right, now we can't forget about the whites. I understand Malvasia de Colares brings a bit of elegance to the table.
Absolutely.
Okay.
What Remitsko is bold and powerful. Malvasia de Colares is all about finesse.
Uh-huh.
Bright citrus and floral aromas, refreshing minerality, and a touch of salinity.
Oh, from the ocean.
Yes, echoing the nearby ocean.
Wow, that's cool. Okay, so we've got this unique terroir,
Yeah.
these resilient grapes.
Uh-huh.
What about the winemaking itself? I understand Colares is very traditional.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Winemaking knowledge have been passed down for generations,
Right.
and they still use these large, old wooden vats.
I'm curious about those vats.
Yeah.
Do they add oaky flavors to the wine like we see in some other regions?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
While oak can certainly add complexity, the use of these old wooden vats in Colares
Yeah.
is less about the oak flavors and more about promoting slow,
Mm-hmm.
gentle oxidation during fermentation.
So it's more about letting the true character of the grapes and that terroir shine through?
Exactly.
I like the letting the place speak for itself.
Yes.
Are there any other traditional winemaking techniques we should know about?
Well, one of the most important
Yeah.
is the use of indigenous yeasts.
Okay.
Unlike many modern wineries that use commercially cultivated yeasts,
Right.
Colares winemakers rely on the natural yeasts present in their vineyards
Oh, wow.
and their winery.
Huh.
These indigenous yeasts add a complexity and regional character that you wouldn't find
Yeah.
in wines made with commercial yeasts.
Interesting.
They really capture that taste of Colares.
It sounds like they're taking a more hands-off approach, letting nature do its thing.
Very much so.
Yeah. And then comes the aging process.
Yes, patience is key.
How long are we talking?
Decades?
Wow.
Decades.
Okay, so this extended aging
Yeah.
allows the tannins to soften the flavors to meld.
Yes.
And for the wine to achieve a level of depth and complexity that you wouldn't find in younger wines.
That's right.
So putting it all together, what should someone expect when they finally get to taste a Colares wine?
Well, let's start with the whites.
Okay.
Imagine a pale, almost translucent color,
All right.
delicate aromas of citrus white flowers, and a hint of that salty sea air.
Okay, nice.
And then on the palate, you'll be greeted by vibrant acidity
Yeah.
and that signature minerality we talked about,
Right?
leading to a long, elegant finish.
Very cool. Now for the reds, those deceptively pale Remiscos.
Yes.
What awaits us there?
Well, you'll notice those pale ruby hues.
Uh-huh.
And the aromas, they evolve over time.
Okay.
Starting with fresh red fruit and developing into leathery, earthy notes
Interesting.
as the wine ages.
Yeah.
But the palate is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
You'll have high acidity,
Uh-huh.
firm yet refined tannins, and a complex interplay of flavors that unfold with each sip.
Oh, wow. That sounds like quite a journey for the senses.
It is.
Now, behind these unique wines,
Yeah.
there must be some equally unique producers.
Absolutely.
I read that the Adega Cooperativa de Colares
Yes.
has played a vital role in keeping this region alive.
It's a shining example of how cooperation
Uh-huh.
can help preserve a winemaking tradition.
Yeah.
It unites these small producers,
Right.
providing them with resources and support,
Okay.
and it helps them bring their wines to a wider audience.
And without the cooperative, Colares wines might not have survived all the challenges they faced over the years.
I think you're right.
So it's amazing how they've banded together to protect their heritage.
Yeah.
Now, I understand there are a few other notable producers as well.
Yes.
I remember reading about Viuva Gomes and Casal Santa Maria.
Viuva Gomes is the oldest producer in Colares,
Wow.
dating back to the early 19th century.
Oh, wow.
And they're known for their commitment to those traditional methods
Uh-huh.
and their exceptional Remisco wines.
Okay.
And then you had Casal Santa Maria, who blend tradition with innovation. They're focused on high-quality wines
Right.
and sustainable viticulture.
It's fascinating to see how this small region is home to such diverse approaches to winemaking.
It is.
And speaking of diversity, are there any up-and-coming producers doing things their own way?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a new wave of small producers
Okay.
emerging in Colares, and they're bringing fresh ideas and energy to the region.
Oh,
While still respecting those long-held traditions,
right.
they're experimenting with new techniques, exploring different vineyard sites,
Uh-huh.
and adding even more nuance to the world of Colares wines.
It seems like Colares is a region with a rich past and a bright future.
I think so.
Thanks to the dedication of its winemakers,
Yeah.
it really makes you appreciate the passion and perseverance behind each bottle.
It does.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Colares. I'm ready to time travel.
Me too.
Let's uncover the historical roots of this unique wine region.
All right.
So, winemaking in Portugal,
Uh-huh.
it has this rich history,
Yes,
stretching all the way back to the Roman Empire.
it does.
And Colares played a role even in those early days.
It did.
Like I read that there's archaeological evidence
Yes,
suggesting that vineyards were already flourishing in Colares during the Roman period.
that's right.
Yeah.
Romans,
Yeah,
with their well-known love of wine,
right, of course.
they saw the potential of this coastal region,
Yeah.
the sandy soils, the temperate climate,
Uh-huh.
influenced by the Atlantic.
Yeah.
It was an ideal place to cultivate grapes.
It's amazing to think that winemaking has been going on in Colares for nearly 2,000 years.
I know, it's incredible.
It really sets the stage for the wines we see today, doesn't it?
It does.
Knowing that they come from a place with such a long and unbroken winemaking tradition.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious, what happened after the Roman Empire declined?
Yeah.
Did winemaking in Colares just disappear?
It's true that, like many aspects of Roman life,
Yeah.
Colares viticulture did experience a bit of a decline after the fall of the empire.
Right.
But it didn't vanish completely.
Okay.
And then with the arrival of the Moors in the 8th century,
Yeah.
winemaking saw a resurgence.
Okay.
So with a bit of a twist.
Now, this is interesting because the Moors, being Muslim,
Right.
weren't exactly known for drinking wine.
You're right. There were religious restrictions on alcohol.
Yeah.
But the Moors were incredibly skilled agriculturalists.
Uh-huh.
They cultivated vineyards
Okay.
for table grapes raisins,
Okay.
even vinegar production.
Wow.
So while winemaking may have taken a back seat for a while,
Yeah.
the vineyards themselves remained a vital part of the Colares landscape.
So even during times of religious and cultural shifts, those Colares vines
Uh-huh.
just kept on going. What a story of resilience.
I know. It's amazing.
Okay, so once the Moors left,
Yes.
did Colares winemaking make a full comeback?
It did.
Okay.
After the Christian reconquest
Yeah.
of the Iberian Peninsula,
Uh-huh.
Colares winemaking really took off again.
Wow.
There was this high demand for wine,
Oh, really?
both locally and from the royal court.
Wow.
which led to an expansion of vineyards and a renewed focus on quality.
So centuries ago,
Yeah,
Colares wines were already gaining
they
recognition.
were.
I actually read that they were quite popular with royalty,
Yes.
which is, a pretty good endorsement even back then.
It's a great endorsement.
That's
During the
amazing.
15th century,
Yeah.
Colares wines were known for their exceptional quality
Uh-huh.
and their ability to age.
Right.
They were even a favorite
Wow.
among the nobility and royalty.
I did read about that. Yeah.
There are documents that mention
Yeah.
King Ferdinand,
Oh, wow.
who ruled in the 14th century,
Right.
being particularly fond
Yeah.
of Colares wines.
So he had good taste.
He did. He had excellent taste.
That's amazing. And this kind of brings us to the phylloxera epidemic
Yeah.
that we talked about earlier.
Uh-huh.
How did Colares manage to escape
Right.
the devastation that swept across Europe?
This is where that unique Colares terroir comes in. Okay. While vineyards all across Europe were being decimated by phylloxera in the late 19th century,
Right.
Colares remained mostly untouched.
And it's thanks to those
Wow.
sandy soils
It is.
that those little guys couldn't survive.
Right, that phylloxera louse,
Yeah.
which attacks the roots of the grapevines,
Right.
simply couldn't survive
Wow.
in that loose, sandy soil of Colares.
Huh. It's as if this region was destined to produce wine.
It seems that way.
Even a plague couldn't stop it.
Right.
And it's thanks to that sandy soil
Yes.
that many of the vines in Colares remained ungrafted,
Uh-huh.
preserving their original rootstock
Yes.
and this unique connection to the terroir.
Absolutely.
It's remarkable. Now, was this around the time that Colares received its official DOC designation?
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
In 1908,
Yeah.
Colares became one of the first wine regions in Portugal
Uh-huh.
to receive the Denominação de Origem Controlada,
Which
or DOC,
the DOC.
designation. This official recognition
Yeah.
really solidified
Uh-huh.
the quality and the historical importance of Colares wine.
Cool.
It was a major step
Yeah.
in protecting the region's winemaking heritage.
So for those of us who aren't wine experts,
Yeah.
can you break down what a DOC actually means?
Sure. Essentially,
Yeah.
the DOC Colares
Yeah.
outlines specific geographical boundaries,
Okay.
approved grape varieties,
Uh-huh.
and traditional winemaking techniques.
Okay.
So these are rules that must be followed
Okay.
in order for a wine to bear
Yeah.
the Colares name.
Right.
So it's a way to protect
Uh-huh.
the authenticity of these wines and ensure a certain level of quality.
It makes sense. You want to know that when you're buying a bottle of Colares wine, you're getting the real deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the DOC really helps to preserve those traditions and
Yes.
the reputation of Colares winemaking.
It does.
But even with this protection, Colares winemakers have still faced some challenges over the years, right?
Oh, they have. Yeah. Despite the DOC Colares has weathered economic downturns,
Uh-huh.
changing consumer tastes,
Okay.
and even pressure from development.
Jeez.
But the winemakers
Yeah.
have always found a way to persevere.
Their story is truly inspiring.
It is.
They never gave up on their vineyards,
Yeah.
traditions, or their wines.
No, they didn't.
Now, I know we can't talk about Colares without mentioning the Adega Cooperativa de Colares,
Right.
which has been such a vital force
Yes.
in the region's modern history.
Absolutely. So tell me about that.
Well founded in 1931,
Yeah.
the Adega Cooperativa has been essential
Yeah.
for the survival of Colares wines.
Uh-huh.
It unites all those small producers,
Yeah.
providing resources and support
Right.
that they might not have access to otherwise.
Right.
This allows them to focus on making the best possible wine,
Yeah.
while the cooperative handles things like marketing and distribution.
It's a beautiful example of community and collaboration
It is.
in action.
It really is. It's amazing to see how the spirit of unity and resilience has helped Colares winemaking not just survive,
Uh-huh.
but thrive.
Yeah.
But what about the future?
Mhm.
What's next for Colares wines?
Well, that's a conversation we should dive into
All right.
after a quick word
Sounds good.
from our sponsors.
All right, so we're back.
Yes.
And ready to tackle the future of Colares wines.
Let's do it.
What lies ahead for this unique region?
You know, like many wine regions around the world, Colares faces its share of challenges,
Right.
but there are also a lot of exciting opportunities on the horizon.
Okay, so let's start with the challenges. What are some of the biggest hurdles
Okay.
facing Colares winemakers today?
Well, one of the most pressing issues is the rising cost of production.
Okay.
Remember those unique growing conditions we talk about?
I do, yeah.
The sandy soils,
Right.
the need for those bamboo fences.
Yeah.
All of that requires a lot of manual labor,
Uh-huh.
which makes the wines much more expensive to produce.
And I imagine that in a global wine market that's becoming increasingly competitive,
Yes,
pricing can be a make or break factor.
exactly.
Yeah.
Colares winemakers are in a tough spot.
Yeah.
You know, they need to find ways to preserve their traditional practices,
Right.
which are so essential to the wine's character,
Yeah.
but also stay competitive in a global market.
I also read that attracting and retaining skilled labor is a growing concern.
It is.
It seems that fewer young people are interested in pursuing careers in viticulture these days.
Yeah, it's a trend we're seeing in a lot of rural areas.
Right.
Young people are drawn to cities for job opportunities
Yeah.
and a different lifestyle.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So that leaves Kohler's winemaker facing a shortage of skilled workers,
Uh-huh.
which can impact both the quantity and quality of wine produced.
Absolutely.
That's a worry, especially for a region that relies so heavily on those time-honored, handcrafted techniques.
Yes.
And on top of these economic and social challenges, there's also the looming threat of climate change.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Climate change is a major concern for all wine regions.
of course.
But Colares is particularly vulnerable
Right.
because of its location right on the Atlantic coast.
Uh-huh.
Rising sea levels leading to saltwater intrusion in the vineyards,
Oh, gosh.
damaging the vines,
Right.
affecting the delicate balance of that terroir.
Yeah.
Increased temperatures, more frequent extreme weather events like storms and heat waves.
Right.
These are all very real threats
Yeah.
that could have a significant impact on Colares winemaking.
It's a sobering thought.
It is.
These wines and the traditions behind them are so deeply connected to Kohler's history and culture.
Absolutely.
So protecting the wines means protecting a way of life.
It really does.
But with all of these challenges facing the region, are there reasons for optimism? What gives you hope for the future of Colares?
Despite the challenges,
Yeah.
I do believe that the future of Colares wines is bright.
Okay, good.
And one reason is the growing global appreciation for unique, authentic wines.
That's true.
People are tired of mass-produced generic wine.
I can understand that.
Yeah, they're seeking out wines with a story.
Yeah.
Wines that reflect a sense of place.
Wines with personality.
Exactly.
And Colares wines definitely have a story to tell.
They do.
They're a product of a truly unique terroir shaped by centuries of tradition and resilience.
That's right.
So they're not trying to be anything.
Right.
They're a pure expression of this very specific place.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes them so compelling.
I agree.
I've also been hearing a lot about the rise of enoturism.
Yes.
It seems like people are increasingly interested in traveling to wine regions
Yeah.
to experience the vineyards, meet the winemakers, learn about the local culture.
Yeah.
Do you think that could be a boost for Colares?
Absolutely. Imagine wine enthusiasts from all over the world
Yeah.
flocking to Colares
Yeah.
to see those incredible sand-planted vineyards
Right.
firsthand,
Yeah.
to taste the wines, to soak up the history and the culture of the region.
That would be amazing.
Enotourism could be a game changer for Colares,
Yeah.
bringing economic benefits and introducing these amazing wines
Right.
to a whole new audience.
I read that there are already wineries offering tours and tasting.
Yes.
Restaurants showcasing local cuisine paired with Colares wines.
Uh-huh.
Even boutique hotels popping up near the vineyards.
It's fantastic to see Colares embracing enotourism
Yeah.
and showcasing its unique charms.
And let's not forget about the innovative spirit of Colares winemakers.
Absolutely not.
I read that they're experimenting with new techniques, exploring different vineyard sites,
Yes.
pushing the boundaries of what's possible with Colares grapes.
I love that. There's a real sense of energy and excitement in Colares.
That's cool.
Yeah, some wineries are focusing on organic and biodynamic viticulture,
Okay.
while others are experimenting with new blends and winemaking styles.
It's wonderful to see this blend of respect for tradition.
Yeah,
And a willingness to innovate.
it is.
So Colares isn't a region that's stuck in the past.
Not at all.
It's evolving and looking toward the future while still cherishing its rich heritage.
Exactly.
And ultimately, what makes you most optimistic is the passion and dedication of Colares winemakers.
Absolutely.
You can really feel that commitment in every bottle of Colares wine.
You can.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yep.
what would you say to someone who's hearing about Colares for the first time?
I'd say that Colares wines offer a unique opportunity
Yeah.
to experience a place where winemaking is more than just a business.
Uh-huh.
It's a way of life.
It's a culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These wines are handcrafted expressions of a special terroir,
Right.
steeped in history and tradition.
Yeah.
Trying a Colares wine is like taking a sip of history.
I love that.
It's an invitation to explore beyond the familiar
Uh-huh.
and discover a hidden gem in the world of wine.
And who knows, you might even find yourself craving a wine grown in
You
sand.
might.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Colares wines. We hope you enjoyed the journey and learned something new along the way. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive for another fascinating exploration.